Welcome to the Dental Marketing Guy Show. I'm Justin, the Dental Marketing Guy, and today I am joined by someone who knows a ton about hiring dental assistants. And I got to tell you, a lot of my clients, you come to me for SEO, you come to me for web design, videography, photography, basically just getting to the top of Google. And then when you get to the top of Google, you realize, we got to hire some people. We got all these new patients, and I wish I just had a great answer for practice management stuff. So this is kind of a sub niche of practice management, and Kevin Henry is a complete expert on this. His resume is long and wide, but basically I can't even do it justice. I was just hoping to, you've published a dental products report, and you've been a name in this industry for so long. I'm hoping that we can just kind of delve into the history of how you got into the dental industry and what your background is for those who haven't heard of you. But first of all, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it. And, pleasure to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that's dental assistants. So let's do it.
Excellent. Yeah. And I know you have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to people already in the practice, and there's definitely a target market in our audience who wants to know about, well, I'm not really hiring, but I am interested in, practice management,
Sure.
the human dynamics in the practice. First of all, I was hoping to talk to you about just what's your history for those who haven't heard of you, just the 30-second elevator pitch of where you came from and how you help dentists.
Absolutely. So I came into the dental industry in 1999. I've been in here ever since in dental publishing. I always tell everybody that I've never worked a day in a dental practice, so you don't want me anywhere near your teeth. However, I'm a journalist by trade. I've worked as the managing editor for Dental Economics, as the group editorial director for Dental Products Report. And one of the things that I learned quickly, I came from sports public relations into dentistry. And so for me, it was, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And really having to learn very quickly. And luckily, there's been so many great people in the dental industry who've taken me under their wing and helped me learn. But I shadowed 3 different dental practices in the Tulsa area during my first few weeks that I worked at Dental Economics, because I wanted to see kind of the intricate workings of how dental practice actually works. And learned a lot just from those few weeks. And then, obviously 17 years later, here I am in the industry and love the people and love what I do. So learning those few weeks, though, it really showed me kind of the power of the dental assistant in the practice. And really that's where I kind of got my passion for helping dental assistants and really trying to maximize not only their career, but also the enjoyment they get out of their career. So
I have a few clients who just in the last couple months tried to hire a dental assistant. Turned out it didn't work out. And they came to me and they said, Justin, is there something I should be asking? Is there something I should be doing in the onboarding process? I'm hoping you can give us maybe like 3 or 4 quick tips on, when you're hiring, when you're putting out the request for
Sure.
a new dental assistant.
Well, I think the very first thing that you have to do whenever you're looking for a new dental assistant for your practice is you really need to think about, what is that person going to do? And it sounds very simple, but still every state, a dental assistant can do something different. And I'm always surprised how many dentists don't actually know what their dental assistant is legally allowed to do or not to do in their state. So I would definitely encourage all of you, make sure that you know what your dental assistant can and can't do in the practice. And then I think that's going to help you with the job description. I mean, if you're just looking for somebody to hand you instruments, and sadly, I've heard so many times, assistants referred to as spit suckers, and there's so much more than that. But if that's really what you're looking for, well, then you're going to find something, somebody for that job description. But if you're really looking for somebody who can add to your bottom line, think about, what are the 3 or 4 things that are the most valuable assets that a dental assistant could bring to your practice. Do you do a lot of cosmetic dentistry? Do you do a lot of whitening? Do you do a lot of things that would require a certain skill set? And I would certainly make sure that you're looking for somebody who either has some knowledge about that, or seems eager to learn. I truly believe that if you're doing interviews, you're going to be able to tell pretty quickly if a person is just there to get a paycheck and just it's a very temporary thing until something better comes along, or if they're actually interested in being part of the business. And one thing that I learned during my years of dental economics is that it's not a dental practice. You are a small business, and you have to treat it like a small business. And these employees have to be just as excited about coming to work in the morning as you are as the dentist. So very first thing, make sure you know what your dental assistants can do and think about how you can incorporate those things into your practice. So often I hear from dental assistants that they don't get to do the things that they're allowed to do in their state because the dentist is afraid to open up a new revenue stream possibly. Maybe they don't want to do this cosmetic procedure, or maybe they don't want to do this, but the assistant's sitting there going, I could do that legally in our state if you just let me do it. So I think a conversation has to happen, not only about what his or her interests might be with dental assistants, but also what are your passions? Why are you doing this? Really get down to the meat of it. So that's the first thing I would do.
And kind of delving into that, what's the
Yeah.
as far as the law is concerned, where can dentists go to find out about, like, what is a dental assistant allowed to do in California, for instance?
Absolutely. Happy to do that. So here's what I would recommend. A great site. We have some great friends of ours at the Dental Assisting National Board, DANB.org. danby.org. Go there. They have something that's called state-by-state requirements, I think it's called. It's real easy to find on their main menu. And they have done an amazing job of taking all 50 states, and you can click on California or Colorado or Oklahoma, whatever it might be, and you can see exactly what that dental assistant can and can't do in that state. So it's a really good reference, not only for you, but also for your dental assistant as well.
In my mind, and this is one of the biggest problems, I think, when paying a dental assistant $10 an hour and the dentist is making $1 million a year, is you can't possibly expect that dental assistant to be as enthusiastic to roll out of bed in the morning, can you?
You can and you can't. It really depends, and I'll throw this back on the dentists who are watching this. I think it's really up to you on how you're treating that dental assistant, as well as how much you're letting that dental assistant be a part of your business. I lecture to dental assistants throughout the country, and one of the things that I hear often is dentists kind of keep them at arm's length. They don't want them to know how well the practice is doing, or if the practice is struggling. They don't want them to know some of the inner secrets of what's going on in the practice because they're afraid that that's only going to open up a conversation for, oh, I need a raise because you're doing so well. They're terrified of that talk. But, my friend Linda Miles, who's the godmother of consultants out there, she always says, think about it like a football game. And if you are playing in the fourth quarter of a football game, you're going to play a lot differently if you're ahead 10-7 than if you're behind 10-7. And those dental assistants need to know the score. They need to know how your dental practice is doing because, again, if you can ask them, say, look, we're falling behind goal this month, what can we do? And if you're relying on your team to help you with that, then absolutely, you give them a goal, they're going to be a lot more motivated to come into it. Oftentimes, dentists are very afraid to let assistants in because they're so worried about the raise and the conversation for that. But I will say, I did a survey a couple of years ago, and I asked assistants, what's the number one thing you want out of your job? And I listed in there pay, vacation, everything you can think of. The number one answer by far was appreciation. And I will tell you this, Dennis, if you're not saying thank you to your staff and really meaning it, thanking them for the day that they put in, thanking them for helping you through a tough procedure, whatever it might be, you really might need to incorporate that into your practice, and you might see an amazing turnaround because appreciation, they yearn for it. They really want that.
You know what? That's a really good point because, if you look at companies like, for instance, Google, they invest a lot in stuff that people enjoy that makes the experience different. And you see this in dental practices too, like, Dr. Anissa Holmes was on this show, and she talked about how they give hand and arm massages. That has nothing to do with dentistry, but it has everything to do with the experience. And,
Absolutely.
and and you can do the same with your dental assistant. And you're starting to see this, especially with millennials, is the pay grade is, and I know there's studies to back this up, but I don't have any offhand. But the pay grade is less important than the experience of feeling like you're appreciated. And so Google, and Google could take the money that they have set aside for every all the it's like an amusement park at Google working there, and they
Yeah,
could set that money aside and they could just give everyone an incremental raise and divert the money that way. But the truth is that's not what people want. They want an experience. So what are some of the more specific ways, coming at you unscripted here, what are some of the specific ways other than verbal praise and showing that you appreciate the dental assistant? What are some of the specific ways that you've seen work in dental practices in terms of helping the dental assistant feel a part of, feeling appreciated and feel a part of the business?
well, it's kind of like this talk you and I are having. I mean, it's unscripted. We're just talking to each other, but yet, you have a passion for what you do. I have a passion for what I do. And we've talked about that off camera, and now we are on as well. I always encourage dentists, ask your assistants what drives them. There are some assistants out there, whenever I talk to them, they love oral surgery. Now, you and I don't love that, but I'll tell you, they love being a part of that in the practice. And I always encourage dentists and assistants, find out what motivates them, and then how can you incorporate that more into the schedule? How can you do the things that you really are passionate about doing more? And this as well as I do. As a patient, whenever we walk into a practice, you can tell if things are good in there or not so much. I left a dental practice one time because it was just a very uncomfortable experience, because it was constant fighting. You could just tell they didn't like each other. And so I always encourage folks, absolutely, the appreciation is there, but get to know each other. It doesn't mean you're going to go out for beers after work and you're going to bowl with each other every night, or, anything like that, but get to know each other. What motivates that other person? What do they love to do? And then how can you do that more and more, not only to help your business grow, but also help that person become a more invested part of the team?
We covered number one in depth right there. How about the next tip? What's the next tip when hiring a dental assistant? What to look for, what to do?
Yeah. Well, and actually it ties into what we were just talking about. I think that you really have to get to know the person. There are some very on the surface questions that we're all going to ask. What do you do? What are you looking for? Things like that. But what is it that really motivates that person and makes them want to get up in the morning? And see what that person, why are they here? If they've had a career already in dentistry, what did they like and not like about their past jobs? Don't be afraid to ask some of those tough questions, because you're going to learn a lot, not only from what they didn't like about their predecessor, but what they really did like. Again, going back to the oral surgery example, is it something that you can count on them to be your assistant for this, and that know that they're really going to be into it? But skill is such an important thing, but passion brings skills out and really brings them to the front. So be sure to say, what did you like? What do you like to do? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? Because for most of us, yeah, sure, the paycheck, absolutely, it gets us out of the bed, but there are things that we love to do, and find that out about that other person.
If just because something pays more doesn't mean I'm going to do it.
No,
It has to be a passion.
it
And
does.
if it's a passion, then suddenly it doesn't matter what it pays. You just want to do it. So speaking of probing questions, like let's say like some hygienists, they just refuse to probe. They everyone's different.
Sure.
Do you find that in dental assistants, is it best to just take a dental assistant who's productive and just let them do what they want to do? And how do you know that beforehand, other than just asking them? Like, do you look for
Right.
certain things, like they light up when they start talking about a specific
Oh
thing?
yeah. And I think that it's something that it's not just during the interview cycle, but if you hire that person, it's maintaining that whole questioning afterwards. You know, are you enjoying this? What do you think would do better? I believe that if assistants are really going to be part of the team, that the dentist has to be able to ask those questions anytime. I mean, it could be the end of the day, the beginning of the day, whatever. But just say, hey, how's things? I mean, really ask those questions. after you've hired the person. Now, during the interview process, you can absolutely tell if somebody's into what you're talking about or they're tuning out. And if there are people who are giving you very short answers, they're not giving you a lot of information, you've got to think about that next step. Is that the person who you want to be sitting next to a patient? And if the patient turns and says, the dentist just said I need a crown, do I really need one? Is that the person you want answering that question or not? Because I guarantee you, so many patients, they look at the dentist as the professional, oh yes, whatever he or she says, but as soon as they leave the room, they want that second opinion, and usually it's the assistant that they see as a comrade or a peer, and it's a trusted peer. And if the assistant kind of goes, I don't know, that ruins the whole case presentation right there. So make sure that you can find somebody who you really feel like is going to be that Robin to your Batman.
That blows me away. The fact that a dentist can come in and say, you need a crown, and then they turn to the dental hygienist or the dental assistant.
Yeah.
Say, do I really need it?
Exactly.
Isn't that fascinating?
And I have had countless assistants around the country say that exact same thing has happened. And again, dentists, you need to make sure that not only you have trust that that assistant is going to say yes, but also that he or she has that knowledge to say why that crown. Really emphasize what you just said. Explain, yes, on the x-ray we saw a crack, and yes, you need to do this because of your oral health. I mean, make sure that they have those words that they're ready to say without hesitation, and that they really believe what they're saying.
It is really, really important that that dental assistant trusts you as the dentist, right? I mean, they have to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I believe trust is a two-way street, and I believe that the dentist has to trust the assistant just as much as the assistant trusts the dentist. And I have said this in courses, if an assistant doesn't really believe in the work that the dentist is doing, then he or she should find somewhere else to work. I mean, and some of you may drop your jaw whenever I say that, but I believe that just as much as the dentist should believe in his team, the team should believe in the dentist as well. And if the clinical skills aren't there, or if some work is being done that maybe doesn't need to be done, and unfortunately that does happen, then again, I say that an assistant, there are other places for you to work out there besides that if you can't say, yes, I believe in you and what you do.
Absolutely. So how about the third tip for dentists looking to hire a dental assistant?
Absolutely. Third tip is a real simple one. Honestly, don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. So many times people look at an interview process and it's almost a box that they're checking. You have to, again, think about this is an employee of your business. This isn't an assistant in your practice. It's an employee of your business. So ask those tough questions. Ask about the things that they don't like. Ask about personality, ask about getting along, because the last thing that you want to have happen is bring somebody into your practice, and like you said at the very start here, something doesn't work out and 3 or 4 weeks later, you're going through this whole process again. I mean, I think I'm a firm believer that if your gut tells you something, you need to listen to it. And I believe that dentists, if they have a bad feeling about something, if the assistant candidate isn't, interactive, if she or he is giving very short answers, if they seem distracted, if they're texting, in between, or, they seem like they're not 100% there, listen to your gut on that. But don't be afraid to ask the tough questions either. Ask about their previous experience. What they didn't like there could be a huge red flag as well. If they always talk about, well, oh, the hygienist did this or the hygienist did that, it could be that they have trouble getting along in the practice. So don't be afraid to ask those tough questions. Don't just gloss over them. Listen.
Yeah. Like we're doing right now. I'm asking you the tough questions.
That's all right. I'm trying to field them as best I can, and I'm not texting at all. So, hey, it's all good,
It's amazing. My phone is ringing. I have it on silent, but I'm not answering it.
That's a good thing. So, yeah, but I really do believe so many times, and I've seen it happen. I've seen the dentist just sit there and just want to get the interview over with and hire somebody. Can you start tomorrow? And it may not matter. This person is going to be a complete cancer to your practice. If they have a heartbeat and they can start tomorrow, they're hired. But so don't ever put yourself in that position. I think that it's so important to get the right people because they are your ambassadors to the patients. And again, I can tell you firsthand, if I walk into a practice and I'm uncomfortable, I'm not coming back. and I'm sure not going to accept any implants or crowns or anything that you might be proposing that I really need.
Yeah, it's funny. Last night I went to the grocery store. I didn't like the way the guy handed me change.
Oh, interesting.
And I thought about it like as like for the people who own the grocery store, like they have no idea that this guy could be in a bad mood 2% of the time, hand change the people the wrong way, and those people aren't coming back. And it just
Right.
kind of blows my mind how much money is lost from the bad attitudes of
Yeah.
employees. Do you find in any case studies or any examples that you can think of where a dental assistant, either positive or negative, they were just an all-star and people went there because of the dental assistant?
My mom needed some dental work done, and my mom is not exactly the world's greatest dental patient. She has a lot of dental phobia about being in there. And I can tell you the lady that she went to in Tulsa, who's an excellent dentist, I love her to death. I think the world of her. But my mom was still very scared about going in to have her dental work done. One of the dental assistants in there literally held my mom's hand during the procedure, while another assistant actually did the assisting, but another one came in to hold her hand. And you know what? Just that little act of kindness meant so much to not only my mom, but do you know how many people she has told that story to, and how many people I've told that story to? It makes an impact whenever you have empathy, and whenever, again, you're caring about your patients, you can tell. And something like that makes a huge difference. And that's a story that my mom has told to countless people in her hometown.
That's excellent. And that is remarkable, which is the whole point of marketing, is to be remarkable,
Yes.
to be someone that people literally remark about. And you know what, actually, this statistic completely surprised me. I'll put the study in the notes below. Even in this digital age, and this is coming from Dr. Jonah Berger. You can look him up. He's a best-selling author in the field of consumer psychology. He said that only 7% of word of mouth is online.
Hmm.
And I was really astonished by that, because even though some people will start their search with a looking at Google reviews and looking at Yelp reviews, they don't end their search there.
No.
And so, they look to back it up. And for instance, if you know someone who's left an online review, if you know them personally, you don't just leave it at that. You don't just go, oh, Susie Q left a 5-star review for this dental office. You call her up, you text her, you meet her for lunch, and you see if you gauge the veracity of it. You see, did you really write this? So even though people trust online reviews, I just thought that was an interesting fact for dentists to know, that most of it is actually still word of mouth, is literally word of mouth, not word of thumb.
It is. And one thing that I always encourage assistants to do, and I encourage dentists strongly to do this, is that your dental office has to be like Vegas. I mean, I believe that strongly, that what happens inside there stays there. And because so many times your team, it may be a bad day, like you were talking about the cashier earlier, he may have been in a bad mood that day, but it still made an impact on you. And if your dental team at the end of the day is going out there and talking about, oh, you won't believe what happened, you've really got to have that code of silence, because I guarantee you, if something gets out there, your hygienist, your assistant, your office manager, whoever is talking about the problems behind the scenes at your practice, well, there's no way I'm going to your practice, if I'm looking for a new dentist. And, they may just think that they're venting to their friends, but ultimately they're talking badly about the business. And so you've got to make sure that everybody has that Vegas mentality, that makes sure everything stays behind closed doors.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've gone over 3 tips. That was all we were really hoping for. But if you have one more bonus tip, ad lib it, that would be great.
Well, I'll just throw this out there, and maybe a little bit of a shameless plug, but certainly, one of the things that I love to do is educate assistants. And I like to work with dentists as well to make sure that they are using their dental assistants to the fullest of their potential. Make sure that you are checking out Ignite DA. IgniteDA.net is our community for dental assistants. And the one thing that we want to do there is enlighten, empower, and educate them. And we want every dental assistant to be a rock star dental assistant. And they're not going to just be born into that. It's something that they learn. And so do this as a dentist. Make sure that you are not only doing continuing education for yourself, but also that your team's involved with that as well. Make sure that you are bringing your assistant. You know, if she's really going to be the Robin to your Batman, you have to make sure that she has that same knowledge that you do. You know, so if you're doing an implant course, you're doing something new, make sure that you're working it out where the assistant, the hygienist, you know, whoever needs to be there is there and is a part of that. Because the worst thing that can happen is for you to come in on Monday and say, hey, guess what we're going to start doing? Lasers, you know, and then the staff's looking at you like, we don't even do the stuff that you said last week or the week before. You know, so make sure that your teams invest in that by bringing them along as well. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Man, this has been so educational. I think this is one of the most important areas in dental marketing is, I think a lot of dentists think of marketing as, yellow pages or billboards, but this is real marketing. I mean, this is where you get along with people and people talk about you. And like you said, word of mouth. It's a little bit word of thumb, but it's
Sure.
a lot of word of mouth. And man, this is the kind of thing that I think dentists really need to nail down. So
It sounds real simple, and yet it's something that there aren't that many folks who have mastered it, and it's definitely something that, again, just kind of think about what your perception is outside of your walls. I think that's really important, and your system plays a huge role with that.
when you have great quality content, when you have a video showing your staff getting along, and you can tell by the photography and the text and everything on your website that this is a synergistic, this is a cohesive team. They all believe, they're all drinking the same Kool-Aid, so to speak. That allows you to produce content that's superior to dental offices that are fragmented and not getting along. And when you produce that content, it's remarkable, and people want to consume it, and people want to be reassured by it. And Google's looking at all these metrics. They're looking at who's producing the content. Is it engaging? Do people stay on that page? Do they look at it, or do they bounce off and go to the next Google listing? And so that's one of the things that Google's been really, really big about with the RankBrain algorithm. So not to get too deep in the weeds, but really this affects all aspects of your practice. So thank you very much, Kevin, for coming on.
Hey, appreciate the time, and I always enjoy it. Looking forward to crossing paths in 2017.
All right, sounds good. All right, and guys, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. YouTube, Dental Town, Dental Marketing Guy blog, wherever you see this. And thank you for watching the Dental Marketing Guy Show.